first part of the state capture inquiry report has been made public. Now, the question is, will those implicated face the music? This part of the report centers around the controversial Gupta family, the ailing SAA, and the capture of the Revenue Service. Well, President Matamela Ramaphosa has indicated he'll do the honourable thing and step aside if he's implicated. To discuss all of this, I'm joined now by Thabo Mtsweni, Chairperson of Democracy in Action, and political economist Daniel Silke. He's, of course, with the Political Futures Consultancy. Gentlemen, before we get to your analysis, perhaps let's take a listen to the clip by the President following the release of the much-anticipated report.
I don't know what the report will be saying about a whole variety of people, including myself. So one has to read the report first to be able to see whether one is conflicted or not. And my own history is that where I am conflicted, I have the sense of integrity to be able to step out of the way and say I am conflicted on this, and I've ingrained that in the way I do things all the time, so that fingers should never be pointed at one about either favoring oneself when you are conflicted.
Thabo Mtsweni, Chairperson of Democracy in Action. Let me begin with you. I mean, you went to court yesterday on an urgent basis, and you lost that case in court when you wanted the president to recuse himself. But listening to him yesterday, and we've just played the clip, I hope you're able to hear it, he's saying that if it's found that he'll be conflicted, and as they unpack this report, he's going to step aside. Does that satisfy your demand?
Good afternoon, Braden, and good afternoon to your viewers at home. No, it doesn't satisfy our demand. Our demand was that the president should not receive the report. As such, the president knows very well that he was implicated by other witnesses in the commission. He himself became a witness in the same commission, and also that he knows very well that he was part of the executive at the time that the state capture is inquiring about. So it's out. He should have at least by now stepped aside and allow his deputy or someone from his cabinet to receive the report.
So you're not even taking comfort from those words that he's just expressed. They're saying that he will step aside if it comes to a point where they realize that he is, as they read and unpack the report, that he's conflicted. You don't even take comfort from that statement?
No, Braden, we don't take comfort. As I say, that he knows he implicated other witnesses in the same commission. Other witnesses implicated him in the same commission, and he became a witness. So he knows by now that at least he was implicated during the commission. And also the fact that he was a witness during the same commission, and he knows the role that he was playing during this time of state capture, including the fact that the president received 500,000 donation from Busasa, which it was very central to the State Capture Commission. So all that information for us says that he should have by now at least stepped aside and allow someone else to receive the report.
Okay, let me bring in political economist Daniel Silke. Daniel, thanks for your time as well. I mean, I'm beginning there because Democracy in Action was in court yesterday, and this is very much topical. The president saying, no, I'll step aside if there is a conflict. But of course, Democracy in Action say, no, you should have done it already. Just your sense, I mean, where's the right way to go? I mean, should we be comforted as a country that the president will make sure that he's not conflicted if that point arises?
Well, I think, firstly, thank you for having me. I think that clearly we have to look at this report holistically once all the 3 volumes are in and once one has had time to dissect all of that. Having said that, I think that there is very broad-based culpability here for state capture. It was through deliberate actions by some, And it was also through some simply sitting on the sidelines. And the president himself has been in very awkward testimony before the commission to try and show his distance from the broader issues of state capture. He's in an extremely difficult position as it happens at the moment in terms of receiving the report. I think ultimately that, from my perspective anyway, it's the right thing to do for him to receive it. It's the right thing for him to also publicize it immediately on websites so that the whole country can dissect it. But ultimately, the decisions for taking further action have to be made through the independent institutions in South Africa. The Hawks and the NPA will have to assess the evidence given, which will include evidence that perhaps implicates in some way or other the president himself, and that action, whether to prosecute further, will have to be on their watch. The political heads in South Africa certainly must have absolutely no role to play whatsoever in the potential future legal consequences of what this report does hold for South Africa. And only if we can separate the politicians from the independence of our judicial and investigative institutions will all South Africans ultimately be satisfied that this report will be handled in a fair way.
There were some voices like UDM's Bantu Holomisa on this very channel here the other day saying that UDM believes the report should have been handed directly to Parliament and not go via the presidency. How would you respond, or how should we interpret that, Daniel?
Yeah, I think a good case can be made that Parliament should look at the matter. I think as head of state, President Ramaphosa finds himself in a very, very awkward position. He now has to preside over, yes, potentially being implicated in aspects of the report, but also being implicated in having to oversee what will be a very messy process within his own political party, as some of his cabinet colleagues, former cabinet colleagues, political bigwigs are in fact implicated and have legal charges potentially put against them. And I think President Ramaphosa himself needs to use this particular opportunity to potentially enhance his own position, or he will find that his own position becomes relatively untenable and even more difficult. It's fragile already within the ANC. And I think he certainly is going to walk a very fine balancing act here as he attempts to be the custodian of the report, at least in the interim, and yet also have to deal with the consequences and the fallout. So, yes, I think there is an argument that perhaps it should have been taken out of his hands and Parliament should really debate the issue. But at the same time, I think one needs to also have confidence that an independent Parliament would be able to adequately assess this matter. I think our independent agencies need to address the issue, and taking the politics out of this is, to me, absolutely critical to get some sort of resolution to the many and myriad of issues that the report is going to bring up.
Thabo, let me bring you back in there. Do you think it's possible to take out the politics out of it? I mean, just judging by the responses we are getting, while on the one hand, there is this sigh of relief that finally there is a report coming out of this Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. We still wait for the other two parts at the end of this month and at the end of February. And finally, we're getting a sense of the findings and recommendations. We are expecting some consequences. But the reaction, I mean, some of it is bordering on political. Is it possible to take the politics out of it, Thabo?
Possible to take the politics out of it. You'd remember, even now in the ANC, it's very bumpy between the two factions, of which I, as an organization, I wouldn't want to get into. But yes, maybe we have to look at the independence of other state institutions, like the MPA. They have to act very swiftly in making sure that those recommendations are implemented as soon as possible. We've got the public protector. She also has to play a very huge role in making sure that that report, some of its all the recommendations are implemented. So yes, it will be difficult for the ANC. It will be difficult for the president, especially if himself is implicated in the matter, because this will be one of the things that perhaps it will be used during the ANC conference going forward, even himself, to enhance maybe his faction inside the ANC. He has to maybe implement this as quick as possible so that he kills other factions in the ANC. So for us, it's really a matter between the ANC and the ANC. And the ANC finds itself in this corner, and now they have to act.
Yeah, now, it's a big year as well for the ANC. I mean, on Saturday, they'll be celebrating 110th anniversary, as you've said. In December, there'll be that conference, and we know what happens. Some people are saying the knives are already out, and this report will find some use in terms of these factional battles. But that will be a disservice, I mean, to the country that's really battling economically currently, service delivery issues. We saw them being highlighted ahead of the 1st November local government election, and people really looking for a break, indeed, looking for the way ahead. Surely the focus should be on clean governance, Thabo?
Well, it should be, Braden, but you remember that the ANC does not seem to be people-centered anymore. The ANC of today, it's all about itself, it's all about the factions within the ANC, and even though they try, they are saying that they are busy doing a self-introspection within the ANC, it would really seem that that is just a talk shop. Nothing is happening within the ANC, but what they are currently doing, it's just one faction killing another faction and making sure that the other factions does not exist within the ANC. So for us, that is worrying. Even this report, even the witnesses that came into the State Capture Commission, some of them were complaining that some of its witnesses or if its evidence affidavit were doctored to suit a certain narrative within the commission. So as it stands now, I guess for us, we don't have too much confidence in this commission or its report, but it has to go through the process, the independent process within other state institutions, so that perhaps it will be implemented. So most or some of the resolutions will be implemented.
The recommendations, yeah. I think, there is that risk. But Daniel, I just want your thoughts there. I mean, in my view, just listening to Thabo there, it would be a very sad day indeed if what comes out of this report fuels ongoing factional battles within the ruling party and elsewhere in society, that we get mired into politics, because some of the recommendations might really be practical in how you save, for example, state-owned enterprises.
Well, I think there are two sides to the recommendations here. One will be the personal side, which will implicate certain individuals, of which legal action would have to be following. And the second aspect of the report ultimately will probably be how to improve the procedures of governance. So there are two sides to the equation. I do think, though, and I agree, that what we are going to see is that this report is going to become a further divisive factor in the ANC politics that we've experienced in recent years. The ANC is already seeing internal divisions on other issues relating to alleged graft and corruption. The Magashule and Zuma legal cases still bubbling above and below the surface. This creates a whole new raft of potential internal instability within the ANC. And the problem really is when you have to confront issues of economic policy changes in the country, structural economic reforms, the ANC is likely to get sidetracked, of course, by navel gazing and by its own internal factional battles. And once you are distracted from the real issues of economic policy making and you just are in a battle to survive as a political party, fragile, moving into the 2024 election cycle, you end up really just trying to piece together and Band-Aid your own political party more than Band-Aid South Africa. And I think that's the real challenge for President Ramaphosa, is whether he can accomplish, in a sense, the cohesiveness of the ANC going forward alongside reigniting and reinvigorating the South African economy. It's a very, very tall order, and this report has increased the heat, so to speak, on these issues.
Thank you very much. Daniel Silke, political economist for Political Futures Consultancy, and Thabo Mtsweni, Chairperson of Democracy and Action, just giving us some of their views after the first part of this voluminous report of the Commission of State Capture, Commission of Inquiry into State Capture was released yesterday. It's part one, in case you don't know by now, and part one has got 3 volumes, okay? And there you've got it. Volume 1 is about SAA. Volume 2, it's about media organization, that's ANA. And then number 3, it's about SARS.